Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the channel RVCCISinfo, where faculty representatives from Rock Valley College's Computers and Information Systems department talks to you, our community at large, about things roughly having to do with computers and information systems. Joining me today, as always, is Stephanie Washer. Howdy, everybody. I'm Eric Wolf, and today we thought we would give you an idea of some of the strategies to look for in entry-level job titles.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we were going to do that based on, our 4 degrees. We've got our 4 degrees: web development, CIS programming, our Cisco networking, which is turning into network analyst basically, and then our cybersecurity specialists. So we're going to go through all 4 of those and kind of talk through them real briefly so that you kind of get the jobs for each area.
Yep. And so just as here's the disclaimer, like this is the warning for the, like these are just broad strokes things to look for. There is no blanket statement that we could make that would make it, correct for you, correct for, the entire degree field. But we can get you kind of a good idea of things to look for.
Yeah, because both Eric and I know we've worked for companies that were based on grants, and some of those grants you have to have a certain job title. So
Right.
I've had some weird job titles. Not that they're weird, but they were IT positions, but they were not necessarily the job titles we may talk about today. But
Right. So what should we do first? What's alphabetically first?
So computer programming would be first.
Computer programming, I guess it would be first. So when you're looking at programming, usually the dead giveaways for an entry-level position are either it'll actually say entry-level programmer, or entry-level analyst, or entry-level developer. The other keyword to look for there is junior. So junior analyst, junior developer, junior programmer, things of that nature. The other thing to look for is usually level 1. You can think about if you think about your 3 favorite types of sizes, right? You have small, medium, and large. We would have 1, 2, and 3 for the 3 escalations that you could have in essentially a career for programming. So when you see developer 2, that means it's your mid-level programmer. Developer 3 is going to mean your upper level programmer. So if you are just starting out, it's probably going to be a level 1.
Yeah. So for programming, you can look for analyst jobs, developer jobs. It might have programming in the job title. Sometimes they do.
It might, yeah. So depending on the company, technically speaking, there is a difference between a developer and a programmer, based on 1,000-year-old understanding of what those 2 jobs did. So I'm not sure that there's a huge difference there.
Yeah, and we just did a quick scan of Indeed, and it seems like analyst seems to be the popular one anymore.
Yeah, analyst is definitely going to be popular, especially for entry level, and especially in fields like, if you think about, and again, don't get bored. But if you think about the fields that are going to be hiring, it's going to be insurance. It's going to be, careers that are math-based. And that's going to sound real boring in the beginning, because I know so many of you were like hoping and counting on your first job being, as a game developer or whatever, and those will come. But in the meantime, pay the bills, get an entry-level analyst job at, State Farm, and make enough money to actually live and then pursue the dream as you go.
Yeah, and they may pay for more education and more training, and that can send you on. I mean, we had, there's one student, I remember her, she was going towards her Associate of Applied Science in Programming. She went to work at, I think the company changed names now. But anyway, she went there, full-time job. They trained her in Magellan. I think that's what they trained her in.
Yep.
And then she ended up moving to Austin, Texas and doing really well. And I think now she lives in Southern California. So it's like, every step she went, they trained her and she was able to move on to a different
Right.
opportunity.
Right. And like legitimately, you just never know.
No.
So maybe we should say this earlier rather than later, is the first job is usually never the dream job. So you need to approach it realistically, but there's a ton of really great opportunities to be had out there in these entry level jobs.
Yep. Yep. So that was computer programming, and
Right.
really the networking and cybersecurity are very similar. And so we can kind of lump those together a little bit. And again, the same terms: junior, level one. What was your other one?
Entry.
Entry. Yeah. Entry level. The other one for networking and cybersecurity, you'll probably end up at a help desk in the beginning, whether it's part-time while you're going to school or whatever, but you
Yeah,
probably.
and usually when you look at help desk jobs, they almost always label those as help desk 1. And
Yes.
that's where you're going to be.
Yes. Yeah. And then, they kind of see how you do there, and then the company can see where you can go from there. And we've had so many students start out at the help desk and then move their way up in organizations
Right.
or
And
into other departments. Yeah.
yeah, and that's the thing I wanted to highlight, was into other departments. Like I can think of 3 students who thought that they were moving away from a career in programming when they did help desk. And
Mm-hmm.
it turns out, you can still activate your career in security by starting in help desk and then moving over, once you've proven that you're competent,
Mm-hmm.
moving over into the security side of things, or moving back
Yes.
into the programming side of things.
A lot of times, especially in Rockford with a whole bunch of small companies and even within like the hospital system, you get in there, you get to know people, they get to know you, they get to know your skill set, then you move around. So it's all about
Right.
networking still.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah, and we don't literally mean the networking degree kind of networking. We
no.
mean the you being able to bridge with other people.
Mhm. Yes, in person, not
Hmm.
necessarily social media wise.
Right.
So, you get to form a relationship and then you can move around. So with networking, it's any technician. So IT tech, help desk, it could be IT support tech.
Hmm.
There might be junior, or like we said before, junior, entry level, or a level one. Sometimes you'll see like IT systems engineer. I feel like those are a little bit higher levels, but you still could
Yeah.
try. It just depends on the
Yeah, I would
company.
say, yeah, definitely try and see if you have the experience set that matches
Mhm.
up. I would say by the time you're looking at engineer, you're probably looking at a 4-year degree.
Yeah,
Um,
usually the term engineer means 4-year degree, but you can always look at it and see.
Yeah, I absolutely encourage you to look at it and see, because now the difference between somebody who has a certificate, who is willing to, or who is not willing, but is able rather
Mhm.
to be deployed at that job today, as opposed to somebody who has a 4-year degree that knows conceptually what to do, but might not have the experience. A lot of companies are coming around
Yeah, and with
to
networking
changing
and
what that means.
cybersecurity, your industry certifications could help you if you have a few.
Right.
So, and especially if you have some security ones,
Hmm.
Security Plus. There's a lot of them that looks like they want a bachelor's, or you could get a CISSP, which is a pretty high level
Hmm.
security
Right.
cert. But so those are, the other one is like they'll say names like network technician 1. So you'll have it's kind of a different way of saying level 1 tech, but
Right.
you got that. And then for cybersecurity, they would just add the word security in for some of those, like security engineer or security analyst. And like
Right.
Eric and I were just discussing, analyst is probably more of a 2-year and engineer is probably more of a 4-year.
Right.
But right now, I've noticed that because of the job shortages, um, and there is a cybersecurity job shortage, there's really an IT job shortage,
Yes.
and people are looking for whoever they can get. And it's not that they're lowering their expectations for the knowledge, it's just that they might not require a 4-year degree. They may
Right.
just have like experience or something attached. So
Right. And the other thing I've noticed is those salary ranges are drifting upwards finally. There
Yes.
was a time where, like, I remember the very first intern I hired, well, hired, it was a volunteer internship type thing, but the very first intern I hired, when we were finally able to place him in a job, the salary was like $36,000 a year in
Mhm.
an entry level position, which I didn't think was that bad at the time. And then nearly 10 years later, with the last intern that I had placed in a job, she was earning $36,000 a year. It's like that floor never moved in a decade, which is malarkey. I mean,
Yeah.
that's total BS. But now you're looking at that same entry level position with a more realistic certificate, or associate's degree, and you're seeing it come up at like $47,000 to $52,000, which is, you know, it's still not great. I mean, it's great, but
It's
it's
great for
it's
Rockford area.
right.
If you
It's
move
more,
into
yeah,
the
it's more reasonable for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah, yeah. For entry level, it's really good for Rockford area. If you move into like Chicago or up to Madison, you're gonna, there'll be
Yeah,
a
you'll earn a little
differential.
more. Yeah.
But yeah, that's exactly it really is. I was just telling Rhonda, our administrative assistant in our office, her son went from he decided he wasn't a programmer, so he went into accounting, and I'm like, well, there's another good
Oh,
one.
that's a good
So
decision. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm like, cybersecurity and accounting, you're never gonna not have a
Right.
job,
Hmm.
so, and actually any IT, the programmers, all of them, you'll stay employed. Sometimes it's harder to get employed if you don't know too many people around you. If you're brand new to IT and you don't have the connections, sometimes it's hard to get hired, but
Hmm.
you have to be patient and be diligent and use
Yeah,
whatever
and
resources
now
you
is
have.
really a fantastic time. There's reasons why it's a fantastic time that are depressing and tragic and all of those things, but for those of us left alive, um, it it really is. There's a wealth of opportunity for, especially the entry level,
Mhm.
because that's where we're seeing the most rapid growth is, everybody moves up in the chain, and that
Mhm.
leaves us a lot of room at the bottom, where it just so happens that most of our students are beginning to look for
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. And you might move up pretty quickly because of what's
Hmm.
happened in the last year or two. And there's a lot of initiatives coming down from the government that, and even, when we say when I say cybersecurity a lot, because that's obviously, one of my, I'm a little biased on it, but all of these things also affect the programming end and the web development. It affects all of it. So it's just basically IT in general that's going to be affected by these changes, and it'll add more jobs to hopefully more jobs and more
Yeah,
opportunities.
definitely.
So, all right. So what do we have left?
The web development is the last one
Mhm.
there. All of the same maxims that applied earlier applied here.
Mhm.
You're going to look for either front end or back end developer, so that's going to indicate whether or not you're going to be working on the way a site looks or the way it acts in the background. So databases versus browsers, essentially. You would look for things like web developer, junior web developer, entry level developer or programmer. Um, eh, the other thing to be aware of, I think, more with the web development than any of the others, is right now, especially, the pandemic has shown a lot of very, very small businesses that they need a web presence. Facebook
Mhm.
isn't going to cut it.
Mhm.
So if you are entrepreneurial, now is a really fantastic time to think about, and I really mean this, like even going door to door to try and start selling, hey, you don't have a website, let's get this up and running for you. Just over the
Mhm.
last year, I've actually been able to barter work on my house for a website for
Mhm.
small companies. My roofer, hey, you don't have a website, I tell you what, you put a roof on here, you get a website.
Yeah.
And it works out.
Mhm.
So if you're entrepreneurial, I actually think web development is the place to be entrepreneurial, because these little companies have these one of jobs that you would, fit pretty perfectly into, and there's no better way to build experience than to do it that way.
Yeah, and you could really get into it when you take some of Eric's classes, or have an internship with our web program, and you
Hmm.
get into these companies. And then once you start getting into them, it's the networking thing again. You get into them,
Yep.
they'll recommend you if you did a great job, and you
Right.
just keep going from there. And it's
Right.
a great situation.
Absolutely. So there you go. Some keywords to look for:
Mhm.
entry level, level one, and junior. I think that applies across all four
Mhm.
of our disciplines here. So let us know in the comments down below whether or not you are having any luck in the job hunt, or even if you're having bad luck in the job hunt. You can also, when you leave us a comment, we do actually see them. So that's a great
Mhm.
place to start reaching out to try and get a little bit of help with actually placing a job. While you're down there, hit the like and subscribe. You know what to do with those. The other great place to start looking is going to be, or interacting with us to start helping you find some of these opportunities, would be with our social media. We are at RVCCISInfo on Facebook, on Twitter, on anchor.fm, and here on YouTube. So if you find that you are not getting the resources you need, or don't know where to locate the resources you need to start thinking about, those job opportunities, reach out to us via social media. And that's something we absolutely are accustomed to helping students
Mhm.
out with. So, on behalf of Stephanie Washer, myself, Eric Wolf, and the rest of the Rock Valley College community, stay safe and stay sane out there, everybody. And it's time to start looking for that hustle here.